Thank you so very much for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. We are very pleased to have you here with us. If it is your first time joining Nutrition Conversations Africa, as we say in Kenya, karibu sana. And if you are a returning participant, we appreciate your attendance. My name is Grace Thuo, and I am the Communications Manager for Country Program at the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, that is GAIN. And usually I co-host this series with Wandi Kazim, who is the CEO for Wandiville Media, which is a leading nutrition and agri-focused media house in Africa. However, today she will not be able to join us due to unavoidable circumstances, but even so, I will be supported by the other team members of NCAfrica, my co-facilitators for this session, Halima Dabana and Olutayo Toromade, as well as Harold Odoro, who is working our socials. Some basic housekeeping. We request that you have your connection on mute during this webinar. Second thing, we are looking forward to a very engaging session. So please drop your comments, your questions, your input in the chat box. We will do as the best we can to address as many as we can in the time that we have. Lastly, as we continue to engage, please tag us in your mentions. In your post, the hashtag is Nutrition Conversations, and please tag NCAfrica, HarvestPlus, and GAIN. We shall be sharing these handles very shortly in the chat box. So to start us off, a bit of background about Nutrition Conversations Africa. And this is a collaboration between the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN, and Wandiville Media. We saw a gap and in that as well an opportunity to have a platform where we can have conversations about Africa's nutrition and under the Africa lens. So our focus is on the continent, and we seek to bring to the fore nutrition and relevant thematic areas to different audiences within the continent and even beyond. So we have this as an advocacy platform where we are aiming to eliminate the African nutritional challenges and opportunities, as well as the transformative ideas and game-changing solutions. And we're doing this through continuous conversations, advocacy, call to actions, and also support and engagement, advocacy support and engagement. We launched in July of 2021. Since then, we've been able to host a series of webinars, Instagram lives, Twitter chats, one-to-one interviews. And this year we are looking forward to doing things, bigger and better and, go big in our engagement. Today, we are excited to have with us different stakeholders, and we have brought them together under the theme, Setting the Scene 2022. Our panelists, Donald Mavindidze, Toyin Onigbanjo, and Charles Opio, they will highlight the priority areas for the year at an organizational, national, and continental level. So we are looking forward to a very engaging session and also to hear from our panelists. And in the course of the hour, we will be coming out of here, energized for the next session and even from these conversations. We hope that each of us can make this kind of networks as we go forward. So once again, do drop in your feedback, your comments, your questions in the Q&A box, and we shall have a moderated session towards the end of the webinar. At this point, I would like to hand over to my co-host, Halima Dabana, who will be taking us through this and highlight this conversation with our panelists. So over to you, Halima. Halima? You are on mute if you can hear me. Okay, so in that case, then I will go ahead and begin the session with Mr. Donald Mavindidze, who is the Regional Director for Africa at HarvestPlus. He has more than 24 years experience in the agriculture sector in Africa, 19 of which are with the private seed sector, and where he has held different and various leadership positions and worked out throughout the Africa region. Mr. Mavindidze transitioned into agricultural development in 2016, and where he took up the role of the Director of Commercialization at the African Agriculture Technology Foundation before joining HarvestPlus in 2018 as a Regional Director for Africa. Welcome very much, Donald. I hope you are well today.
Thank you very much. I'm doing well and still working from home. We hope that very soon we'll be able to return to the office and have maybe face-to-face interactions once again.
Absolutely. That is the desire that we are all looking forward to. And it's such a pleasure to have you here with us. And we're looking forward to have this conversation about setting the scene 2022. So to start us off, HarvestPlus is known to advocate against micronutrient deficiencies and by breeding biofortified food crops. So what are the key priority areas for the organization this year?
Okay, so at HarvestPlus, the goal of our organization is to ensure that everyone has access to good nutrition by making all available foods as nutritious as possible. And that includes staple foods, which are really the backbone of most people's diets. This is especially true for those people who are living and those communities living in rural areas of Africa who cannot afford nutritionally diverse diets and have to rely on staples for much of what they eat and are not easily reached by other interventions such as supplementation and fortification initiatives. And the restrictions of these other interventions has actually come to the fore, especially during this pandemic period. So one would be asking, how do you do it? We do so by leading a growing global drive to make nutrient-rich biofortified crops and foods widely available. And some of the key priority areas that we have are: one, we work with private and public partners at national, regional, and global levels to rapidly scale up production and consumption of biofortified crops and foods, and to create sustainable value chains all the way from when the crop is, from seed all the way to the plate. And then we also integrate, we work to try and integrate biofortification into the nutrition and health health programs of different stakeholders. For example, we work with the international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the African Development Bank, and other regional bodies such as African Union and national governments, of course. And then we also help national governments and private sector. And when I talk about private sector, more specifically seed companies, to mainstream biofortification into their crop research and development programs. And then we are also happy to say that there is an increasing momentum and consensus to scale biofortification, as we have seen. For example, we saw during last year's UN Food System Summit and the Nutrition for Growth Summit that there is numerous calls by both national and global leaders, including very strong voices from Africa, led obviously by the African Union, in support of this initiative. So this year, we are going to be working to ensure that all these new commitments that were made during the latter part of last year are actually translated into action. For example, we are currently engaging with the African Union, and we are very hopeful that the upcoming African Union Heads of State Summit, which will take place sometime this month, will make a declaration on biofortification and fortification as well as cost-effective innovations that can help to solve the problems of micronutrient deficiency on the continent. Well, I think with such positive and strong signals, we hope that we will encourage member states to invest more in this innovation. It is also quite appropriate, given that this is the year of nutrition on the African continent. Thank you very much, and I will stop there for now.
Those are some fantastic areas and themes coming up. And just for our audience who we don't want to make any assumptions, and just following up on what you have mentioned, how do you define micronutrient deficiencies?
Okay, so there are 3 micronutrients that have been identified by the World Health Organizations to be of public health concern. And so these are vitamin A, iron, and zinc. And those are the nutrients that we are working on to make sure that they are more available in people's diets. The deficiency these 3 micronutrients are causing a lot of public health problems, and so hence our intervention.
Thank you. And you have mentioned some of the interventions that you'll be working on, and the big names on the continent that you'll be partnering with, from the Africa Union, for example. And so how can we, and biofortified, the whole element of it is not always easily understood, even by those that we are working to reach. And so how can we advocate, especially for these crops, for the uptake of biofortified crops?
Okay, so maybe, yeah, biofortification is actually a very new technology. So maybe so that also our audiences from around the world can get to understand what it's all about. So biofortification is essentially breeding of high nutrient density into staples. I mentioned the 3 micronutrients that have public health concern, not only in Africa, but throughout the world, especially in the low and middle income countries. And so our idea was we wanted to make sure that the staples, which are easily affordable and accessible to most vulnerable people, the most poor people, they have high density of these micronutrients. And that's what biofortification is all about, and that's what we've been promoting. And you talk about advocacy, and advocacy is actually a very important part of scaling this innovation and taking it out to as many people as possible. A key element is to provide a very strong scientific evidence base to support this innovation, which HarvestPlus has been engaged in for the past 18 years, working with our different partners. And this evidence that has been generated attests to biofortification's benefits to nutritional status, health outcomes, but also to livelihoods and livelihood benefits. So it is important to emphasize livelihoods, the livelihoods aspect actually, because beyond improving just the nutritional and health, biofortified crops and foods are creating enormous opportunities for farmers who are our partner, which we are linking together with our partners to markets for these crops, as well as engaging seed and food SMEs and entrepreneurs who are working on this value chain. This is what makes biofortification a sustainable nutrition response. Because it becomes embedded in the food system through the value chain.
And I'm sure we'll come back to that, because we always get questions how to connect what we're doing, at the global level with grassroots, and how we are connecting with that. So we'll definitely be coming back to you, Donald, for that. And thank you so much for your perspectives that you have shared. I would like to introduce the second panelist, who is Toyin Onigbenjo, and the founder and the CEO of AugustSecrets. She is an award-winning child nutrition advocate, and the company AugustSecrets is a fast-growing, innovative child nutrition company. It's based in Nigeria and is on a mission to reduce the rate of malnutrition amongst African children with traditional, tasty, and natural cereals. Mrs. Toyin is also a children's recipe developer, an author, a family enthusiast, and gender and growth advocate for women. She's a recipient of several awards, including the Grassa Machel Gender Lens Award for her work in child nutrition, and also is the author of best-selling recipe book for children. So welcome very much to this webinar, Toyin.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Great to have you here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Donald. And thank you, Grace.
Absolutely. So to start us off, we can have a discussion about, your focus areas as child nutrition advocates. What have you identified as our priority areas for this year?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. For us at AugustSecrets, it is very important for us this year for us to take a look back at the post-COVID era. So because with the post-COVID, so many changes, so many lifestyle changes happened, both with our customers first, who are the people we are serving. So our customers are children, that's the first thing. So we are saying that, okay, COVID actually disrupted a lot of things. So before we take any decision, since last year, we've been considering to say that, okay, now that everybody's lives seem to have been disrupted, and it seems like the COVID-19 pandemic has come to stay somehow, the effects of the pandemic itself, how far has it stayed with our customers? And our customers are more or less helpless. They can't make decisions themselves. So the mothers, the fathers, the guardians who are going to make these decisions for them, how is their lifestyle now? What are the things that are changing? So for instance, we now have more mothers working from home. So if most of us, say 80% of my customers are now working from home, and the babies can now be with their mothers, is there anything else that they are going to need? Is there going to be a sort of change? What are the things? So the first thing for us is about the lifestyle change, because you really can't change anybody. You can't improve anything behind anybody if you don't consider the way they live their lives and what has really happened to them since the pandemic. So that was the first thing, and we started that last year. So we've been able to identify some needs. We sent out surveys to see. So for instance, we have the cooking time for some of our foods. We have more of our moms now engaging a lot of nannies. So we have an example where we have a nanny trainings for our moms. So if your nanny, your domestic staff is properly trained, the person carrying your baby is properly trained, it's to help you, it's to help you focus on your work, and then you're sure that your child is getting the best of nutrients. So we started engaging dietitians, nutritionists to, engage our moms on how to get the best of help in terms of providing the best food for their children. And then the next one again for this year particularly will be around sustainability. So the sustainability in this sense is taking a step back and reviewing our goals and our vision. So what do I mean by that? Like I said, a lot of things changed. As of 2019, some of the things that we were all, hear about, so many things now, have really changed. So for instance, we used to have exhibitions, we used to have pop-ups, but because of the, health issues, safety issues right now, some of those things will have to be at the back burner. So we are taking that opportunity to then say that, okay, how else can we engage? These pop-ups that were meant to actually build, to improve on what we know as, our engagement, what we call our engagement with parents, because like we say, it's parents, it's mothers who make this decision. So we're doing a lot in terms of education, in terms of behavioral change communication to them that, oh, these are the things that you can make for your baby. These are the foods, the kind of choice of foods that you can make for them. So the sustainability in this sense is particularly with our supplies. And we currently understand that a lot of farmers, we have issues around climate change, around the fact that a lot of farmers need support. And then we are also saying, come, we have a lot of overhead as a business. We want to provide the most nutritious foods. And then we have lots of overheads, lots of, the rate of inflation has really caught up on a lot of our ingredients. So we are saying, oh, Mr. Farmer, please come, let's have a discussion. Let's partner with you. Is there a way you can offer us maybe something like credit opportunities? If, for example, you offer us credit opportunities, and then we're able to do this for you, we're able to support you in this regard, we're able to offer, partner with other civil society, other organizations that would otherwise want to support these farmers, but they need food processors like us to be able to offtake from them before they can offer, the best of support. Because aside us providing fertilizers for them, the fact that, a particular company is going to be off-taking their produce, that alone, is a lot of good news. So for us as well, so we believe that if we do more of this, okay, so I'm currently engaging like 4 farmers right now, and I want to increase increase the number to up to 10 farmers now, because I want to increase my capacity. So if I want to increase my capacity, I can, as well have a sit out with the farmers, with HarvestPlus, or HarvestPlus farmers say, guys, come, we need to have this discussion. What are the things that we can do? How can we mitigate against the certain risks that are common to both processors and both to the farmers as well? So we are looking very, very hugely around sustainability. And yes, in terms of our expansion, I'm very sure that so many opportunities, especially looking at the food summit that was held the last time, and looking at the picture, the expectations from food processors like us, even though our size is not so big, but we believe that we can contribute our own quota. At the end of the day, the whole outlook is for us to have more affordable food. That's the end goal for everything. That's just the end goal. All the partners that we are speaking with, we have partners such as GAIN, we have partners such as HarvestPlus supporting us. All we have been saying is we want our food to be more affordable. How can you support us to support our farmers, to our suppliers? How can we go back to the drawing board to make sure that we get more affordable food around, and then of course so that the food is also going to be more accessible. We have a partner currently working with us regarding the accessibility of our foods in terms of making our smaller sizes. So if we have smaller sizes now, and then certain channels or certain rural areas where our products couldn't be before, they can then be sold there now, and then it's definitely more affordable for the everyday parent who wants to feed their children the best of food. So the summary of the priority for us is basically sustainability on the back of the post-COVID era. And yeah, it's both from the customer's point, which is the lifestyle change, and also from the supply point, having a more sustainable and a more robust supply chain system.
And you've mentioned some critical elements, especially with regards to doing business in Africa. And your business represents a significant constituent in Africa, over 60% as our SMEs. So what are some of these challenges you encounter, especially as a food producer? I see some comments in the introductions in the chat box where we have producers across different parts of Africa, and I know many of these challenges would cut across. So give us two key ones perhaps, and how this can be effectively addressed.
The challenges that we go through as food processors are basically the same as any manufacturer will go through. We already have existing challenges such as the lack of infrastructure, good roads, and better opportunities in that regard. So, and then in addition to that, anytime I mention good roads, it always reminds me of anytime we take our products out, especially out of Lagos, and then you have about almost 10 checkpoints between a particular town and the next town. So, and the checkpoints, and then you hear about another entirely different tax that you're supposed to pay, an entirely different form that you're supposed to fill. And then we say, okay, we have all of this sorted in our state, which is Lagos State, and then we will be mandated again just because we want to make a supply of probably very few cartons, and then you'll be mandated to do all this. These are the issues that actually stifle the growth of any food processing company, especially here in Nigeria, and I'm sure that most parts of Africa as well. That's a huge challenge. On the back end, in terms of dealing with getting our sourcing for produce, we've been having issues around with the inflation of most of the ingredients. So in discussing with farmers, we hear about poor yield. Of course, we understand that climate change is also a major factor, and I'm currently not an expert in that regard in terms of the climate change, but I know that if farmers are given a lot more support, I always say that if we have companies if we have 100 more companies like AugustSecrets in Nigeria, there's going to be a lot of difference, a whole lot of difference. Where we're going to get the difference is that we are going to be taking a lot more products. We are going to be helping farmers to cut more food waste by creatively coming up with products. So we are looking at, for example, Bambara nuts, for instance. There are so many products that we've not even explored at all. We've not explored Bambara nuts as much as we should. We've not even explored fruits. As popular as fruits are, we have opportunities in making like fruit purees, for instance, for babies. We've not even explored that because we have, and for me, I believe that such kind of opportunities would really help in curbing food waste. But when we don't even have the support, when we are barely fighting, you know, for our lives, or fighting to pay salaries, such kind of opportunity might not be, you know, it might just remain on your paper. It might not be so, it might not be actualized. So we have issues around, you know, the climate, we have issues around poor yield with farmers, but I believe that if there's that linkage, enough linkages, I mean, the right linkages in terms of support, because for instance, we have organizations that approach us. Before now, we used to have organizations that approach us and say, "Oh, introduce us to your suppliers, and you know, let's see what form of capacity that they also have." So there's no way an investor will invest in AugustSecrets. A nutrition investor, for example, would come and say, "Oh, I want to invest in the good work that AugustSecrets is doing. I want to help scale." You know, because if we're going to scale nutrition, we're going to scale, you know, the food processing companies. So if we want to scale what AugustSecrets is doing by, say, 100% or by, say, 50%, you cannot scale AugustSecrets without scaling my supplier, without scaling my farmer, without scaling my researcher, because I don't know everything, without scaling the people providing me the ingredients. So I'm calling for the supplier of my my orange flesh sweet potato, and then he's saying, you know what, we didn't plant because last month, poor planting season. I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? And it was stuck. So there has to be, that's the challenge is still there in terms of, you know, that linkage, the right linkages, you know. So we want to grow, but if we don't take along our suppliers, if we don't take along our farmers, if we don't take along our you know, our processors, our partners, we will not be able to really scale, you know, in the exact way that we want. This is in addition to other challenges such as inflation, insecurity. Again, those are, there are some places that we're supposed to get supplies from, but because of insecurity, we're not even able to have meetings with them. It's that bad. We're unable to go there. We have insecurity in the East, for instance. We can't even visit. We can't check up on suppliers. They are calling me from maybe Anambra, and I'm scared, like on Mondays, I can't be there. Those are threats to lives that, you know, really are external factors that, I don't know, we're unable to control at this point. Yes,
absolutely,
yes.
and they do cut across. And you know, as a lot of the issues that you have mentioned and those that Donald has mentioned as well, there's a big part of influencing and advocacy that is required for this, you know, for there to be action and movement, and this will, you know, get us at least to a place where we're seeing, all right, we have got some good results. And to speak more on this, we have got Mr. Charles Opio, who is the Influencing Advocacy Manager at GAIN Kenya. He's a food systems specialist and currently plays an advisory role on all matters policy relating to food and nutrition security in Kenya. Mr. Opio has been leading the UN Food System Plans and Nutrition for Growth activities on behalf of GAIN in Kenya, and he leads a network of close to 130 SMEs under the umbrella of Scaling Up Nutrition as the national coordinator for the Sun Business Network. He's also the vice chair for the Eastern and Southern Africa Scaling Up Nutrition Civil Society Network, which represents 12 countries. Good to have you here with us, Charles. Welcome to this webinar.
Thank you very much, Grace. I hope you can hear me very well.
I can hear you very well. We will begin, as you have already had, and I'm sure you're very conversant with a lot of the concerns that have been mentioned already by Donald and Toyin. So let us begin perhaps with the priority areas that you have identified, for example, coming out of Kenya.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also to Toyin and Donald for those very insightful contributions. Kenya, as put it very rightly, there are a number of priorities that actually have been put together. And largely, as you've heard very clearly, that 2021 was the year where we had a lot of conversations and very, very, intricate, in terms of what really ails our food systems. And in that regard, from the UN food system discussion to nutrition growth conversations, at least there were some priority areas that were identified by the Kenyan government that perhaps are going to be taken forward. And I believe, given the kind of energy they are putting at the moment, I believe these are the right things for them. So one is looking at the youth. And I think it became very much clearly that the role of young people, especially in driving the food systems, is something that the government of Kenya is now trying to reposition. So looking at opportunities in terms of building a critical mass of agri-entrepreneurs from among the young people, that then would now be able to really ensure that at least they either get some very meaningful employment, but also contribute immensely in terms of addressing food and nutrition security that we have in the country. So there are a couple of things that the government has revived or reviving around what we call the 4K clubs, the young farmers clubs, and all those opportunities, including the innovations and hubs that have actually been put in place to allow young people to also take very strategic role in food and nutrition space. The other one is around digital innovations. And I think this is something that the Kenyan government has really taken forward as an area that they want to invest in. We are looking at opportunities in terms of where farmers can access information, which is very timely and very, in a way that really they will be able to use it effectively. And in this case, you've had cases where at least extension services these days, you don't need to really employ everyone else to reach out to every farmer. They can easily access this information, even at the nearest and as early as possible. And at the same time, there are also other aerial solutions, early warning systems. Right now, issues around climate change and all these drought-related things that happens. You'd ordinarily imagine that at least farmers require very urgent and up-to-date information around the climate issue. So what we call aerial solutions, the geospatial kind of solutions that are critical in terms of enabling farmers to really, have what they need to be able to invest their resources wisely, but also accessible in terms of markets and all that. So digital innovation is the next thing. We're looking at diverse diets, another major area that I think Kenyan government is also taking forward, because I think there's a conversation in terms of driving from a more carbohydrate-based sort of diets to a more protein and mineral and vitamins-based kind of diet, because obviously the issue of micronutrient deficiency that Donald talked about is something that's already ailing Kenya, and we believe we will have the mandate, I think, as a country to be able to really nip this in the bud. Solutions such as industrial large-scale fortification is something that has not been made mandatory in Kenya, and I think a lot of different players, the millers, and everyone else who is in the particular space is being encouraged to be able to really see the value of ensuring that they enrich our staples with the minerals and the vitamins that is required. So in terms of diverse diets, I think that is going to be very key. And therefore, even in terms of development of policies like the Kenya Nutrition Action Plans, really they're very much deliberate to anchor in what we call more nutritious and more healthy diets, and to really see what else has been left, including even indigenous crops, like vegetables that basically will be able to enrich most of the Kenyans' diets. So that has also been a priority. And finally, the other thing that Kenya is repositioning is issues around gender, because they believe the role of women is very, very key in terms of also addressing, the issues that the smallholder farmers go through. And, women, as we all understand, even from one of the dialogues we conducted last year, it became very clear that women are still struggling and they're being excluded on issues of food systems in terms of even their contribution, much as in terms of labor, they do so much, but really meaningful gain that they're getting out of this is not been really something that is very good. And therefore, I think the role of women entrepreneurs trying to encourage women so that in any case, they've been kind of excluded in the past, now they can be included in this particular process as part and parcel of the team that is going to transform the Kenyans' food systems going into the future. So I think that is what I would say in summary, and a couple of policies already are in place. The agricultural sector growth and transformation strategy is a bigger flagship, kind of policy document that anchors 9 key flagship areas that is going to really transform Kenyans' food systems, perhaps in the next 10 years. And that is focusing at 2030. And hopefully, I think that is how we'll be able to see into it that, we all contribute as even partners in that particular space. So that's a quick input from Kenya's perspective.
You have been working in this space for quite a while now, and sometimes it seems or feels that the nutrition agenda is kind of is in the back seat, where conversations in Africa are involved, and not just a conversation, but even action. So would you say we are stagnant, the nutrition agenda? Are we moving the needle? How can we position ourselves for greater impact? I think that is a critical one for us to learn.
Yeah, thank you very much, Grace. I think talking at maybe perhaps at continental level, I think it's very clear that the continent is still grappling very serious and very stark realities in terms of hunger issues. In fact, if you look at the millions of Africans, in fact, it's almost estimated close to 282 millions of Africans are facing extreme undernutrition, with another 36 million or so, 93 or so million also going through very extreme hunger and all that. So that means that, yes, while there could be some effort that I think a number of countries, the African Union has also been able to put in place, I think there are still very stark realities that we are not out of the woods yet, because now we are looking at what we call maybe at least a third of maybe the children under 5 in the continent being stunted, and another almost 2 out of 5 women you'll find they're also very much anemic. And these are data that actually been established by the Africa Development Bank and the UN, give you very, very stark situation where there is need to really move with very strategic investments, and also at the same time trying to understand where can we make most in terms of transforming the situation. So I would say, while there's some effort, including the fact that Africa Development Bank came up with what they're calling the multi-sector nutrition action plan, the 2018-2025 strategy. I think that's partly, I would say, some effort has gone into that, because when looking at what I would call the nutrition smart interventions or projects that have been funded by Africa Development Bank in the past couple of, maybe in the past year, that has increased perhaps from 5% to around 18%. And at least that's a very positive trajectory. But again, we must understand then there is now the triple challenge of climate change, COVID-19, and also other challenges to do with drought, hunger, and drought and the rest. So if all this compounds the whole situation, I believe then it means that even some of the gains that we have made in the past can be clawed back. But the truth is, we are not doing very well. In terms of commitment, we know very well that African countries committed to putting 10% of their resources towards agriculture. That was the Malabo Declaration in 2014. Very minimal improvement, kind of progress that have been made in that particular area. When it comes to health, the 15% Abuja commitment, that has never been met. In fact, for Kenya, we hardly gone beyond 6%. So it means that while we are investing so much in other areas like conflicts, where so much has been invested in arms and all this in the continent, I think to us, we really must be able to really think, because women and children are suffering in this continent. And that is why I would want to say, yes, we can only do so much, but ask countries to also invest and be able to meet their commitments they have made. And that way, I think we'll be able to really make some difference. But still, we are not out of the woods, I believe so. Yeah, thank you.
Without a doubt, we have so much work to do and so much going before us, but we must keep ourselves encouraged that we have got the opportunity, to change this narrative and really contribute to it. And before we move to the Q&A session, I just have one question for Donald. A strong theme has been coming up as all of you have been speaking, especially with regards to climate change. And just to speak about how, climate change is once again one of those terminologies that is not always as open-ended and open-faced as it may seem. And it would be good just to highlight how, even over this what of course HarvestPlus is doing, but what is climate change? What can how our farmers are adapting, or how can they adapt? Leveraging the traditional nutritious foods and things like that. But just a few words on climate change.
Okay, yeah. So climate change is really presents an existential threat to smallholder farming families throughout Africa, and unfortunately, Africa is bearing the brunt, but Africa is not really responsible for the carbon emissions that are happening around the world. And so I think what we should be concentrating on the African continent is really climate adaptation and not mitigation. Because what do we mitigate? Africa is responsible for less than 5% of all carbon emissions. So it's more adaptation, and we are bearing the brunt, as I say. There's very unpredictable weather patterns. I actually live here in Kenya, in Nairobi, and last year, for example, we had our cold season. It started very early and it ended very late. The short rain season came in very late. January has been uncharacteristically wet, and we had some big droughts and everything. So it's a real issue. And unfortunately, we are, as I said earlier on, Africa is bearing the brunt. And what have we been doing at HarvestPlus? So at HarvestPlus, we realized earlier on that we needed to come out our innovation, that is the biofortified crops, needed to be climate proof, so to say, to help farmers, especially the ones that we are targeting with this innovation, to adapt to the issues of climate change, such as droughts, such as pests and diseases, and so on and so forth. So all the crops that we develop, all the varieties that are developed are climate smart. What do I mean by climate smart? They're drought resistant, they are heat resistant, they are, and because of their inherently nutritious, it also actually makes them climate smart. It is estimated that because of the rise in carbon dioxide levels, the nutrition content of all crops is going to reduce. So biofortified crops, by their very nature of being having high densities of micronutrients, will be less affected by this issue of climate change. So as you can see at HarvestPlus, everything we do is really focused to make sure that farmers are able to adapt to climate change. Thank you very much, Grace.
Thank you so much, Donald and Charles and Toyin, for your deep perspectives and the conversations that we've had. I would like us to move briefly into the Q&A session, and my co-facilitator Olutayo will be moderating that session. Olutayo, if you can hear me, please do go ahead.
Hi, Grace. Thank you very much. And thank you for walking us through that session. So we'll now go ahead and take some questions. And just a reminder, please ensure to drop your questions in the question and answer box so it can be attended to. So we have a couple of questions here. And the very first one I have here is for Ms. Toyin. It says, how can we get more people to invest and create awareness about indigenous nutritious foods in Africa?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Mrs.
How can we
Toyin?
get more people?
Yes, to invest and create
How can we get more
awareness
people?
about indigenous. Yes, that's what the question says, like more people based on like people at the grassroots, stakeholders, to invest and create awareness about indigenous nutritious foods in Africa.
Okay, so I believe that the response to that, for me, in terms of investing, would be proof of concept. And in the past years, we've been seeing, a rise in the number of local foods, homegrown foods that are being produced, or otherwise products that are made with homegrown ingredients, and they're very interesting. So one of the ways is, for instance, one of the chain stores here in Nigeria, there was a plan with the federal government and a couple of partnerships with these associations on them off-taking products from Nigerian companies or otherwise companies that make use of homegrown food products. So I believe that opportunities like the government partnering with stores, chain stores, which in turn provides a huge market penetration for a lot of, especially SMEs like us. Such opportunities really go a long way in helping to accelerate and shine the light on products that are made with homegrown foods. So the mandate was to stock a considerable percentage of homegrown as against imported food, because we all know that imported food takes up to 80% of the market currently, both baby food and also other food, even foods for adults, teenagers, and the rest of that. So with such accelerating opportunity, it solves the question of market access. So I believe that market access for the existing product, at least, the existing product, if the government can provide a market access, or even partners such as GAIN, HarvestPlus can look into such opportunities for market access for the existing nutritious products that are locally produced. Trust me, it's going to go a long way. And those are the things that are attractive to investors, no matter the kind of investment it is, even if they are grants, even if they are technical opportunities, equity, whatever the kind of investment, the investment has to yield results. So even if it's impact, even if they are industry grants or industry-based grants, they still need to yield results, and the result, at least the minimum result, should be impact and access to more nutritious food. So whether it's an institutional investor or it's an individual investor or government or angel investors, the end goal has to be either impact or profit or both. So I believe that if the existing products or the current products are accelerated, it will really go a long way.
Okay, thank you very much for that very brilliant answer. So the next question will be directed to Mr. Opio, and it says, what is a priority policy change that would like to see, either at the level of the AU or possibly at national level? And how do you think the AU can influence this field in favor of better nutrition?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think from the UN Food System Summit, we had very good plans, what we call the national pathways to transforming food systems. If those pathways can be, can be implemented as actually, compiled the way I'm very sure there were very rich conversations and very rich contributions that we, were, generated from the different players and actors. Then I think that should be able to inform the national level policy pieces that would really go a long way in addressing that. I would say at continental level, obviously, there are a number of policy, directions. I've just talked about the multi-sector nutrition action plan by Africa Development Bank 2018-2025, plus many more, like we've had about the Agenda 2063, which is the bigger commitment for Africa, plus other commitments around Abuja, Malabo, and the rest. I believe what is lacking is just the implementation of some of this. Very interesting and very good documents of intent. But the challenge by countries is that they are not really making much effort to be able to really even report effectively, even if they're doing something. Because sometimes even you go to the CADA process, which is a way of monitoring the commitments from Malabo, you find sometimes there is very limited information that really would help really demonstrate that countries are making progress. But by and large, to be very honest, I think policies are quite much in place. It's just the investment that are required to be able to realize some of those commitments, but also working with partners and all other players in a more multi-sectoral way, and in a way that will be able to see into it that some of these policies are implemented. And I think in that regard, we will be able to really have make the change that we want to see. Because one thing I believe in is that a lot of investments in most of our countries are not really going towards food issues in terms of trade that we really would want to strengthen healthcare systems and all that. That is an area that I think most of our countries need to be encouraged to be able to really put more effort to invest and even have national level. Like for Kenya, we have what we call the Nutrition Action Plan, which is a bigger document with very clear what we call key results areas on how to bring in all both nutrition specific and nutrition sensitive interventions in one-stop shop in a way that we can be able to really see the transformation in terms of addressing malnutrition cases that we have in Kenya. So if countries can adopt that, and that is even taken down to the subnational level, like for our case, I would say that we have even what we call the county level or subnational action plans, which then, are drawn, but the challenge, as I've said, is the resources that are equivalent in terms of being able to implement and achieve some of those commitments is where we need to put more effort. Finally, I would just say that there is also need to develop what we call a policy tracking tool, really to see to it that at least some of these policies that have actually been put into place, are they being implemented effectively? If civil society networks, the private sector, and anyone else who have actually good intentions should be able to really, for some level, we need to hold our governments to account to really demonstrate that there's some progress towards realizing some of the commitments they have made. And I think that's where we really want to move progressively so that we have what we call adequate information to put a case for even our advocacy going into the future. But that is the space where things are. And I think even at Africa Development Bank has really done much also to really reposition nutrition and food security as a major agenda in most of their projects that they're funding across the continent. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And the next question I would like to ask would be to Mr. Donald. It says, don't you feel that adding vegetables to people's diets by making them more affordable and accessible could have a greater impact on nutrition security in sub-Saharan Africa?
Thank you very much, Olu. So yes.
Mr. Donald, are you with us?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Now, I'm just saying that the ultimate or the gold standard is to mitigate against micronutrient malnutrition is a diverse diet. A diet that consists of animal source food, that consists of vegetables, that consists of staples and all food groups. However, the problem that we have, and the reason why HarvestPlus decided to come up with this innovation is because fruits and vegetables, more specifically, and even animal source foods, are very expensive and out of the reach of most of the communities which we are targeting, or which are actually affected by this problem of micronutrient malnutrition. And so our idea with biofortification was, since staples are the most affordable group, even when everything else is expensive and families are not able to afford, you'll find that they'll still have access to staples. Either they will grow them, or they'll be easier for them they'll be more affordable for them to buy. And so we thought, why can't we use these staples as a vehicle to deliver these micronutrients and make sure that we can get those micronutrients to every household, because every household inevitably actually consumes staples, your maize, your cassava, your rice, your wheat. And those are the vehicles that we are using. Having said all this, I just also want to say that these interventions that are out there are complementary. We believe that staples are the foundation or the bedrock of most diets. But however, there are other food groups that are also important. So all these interventions, fruits and vegetable data diversity, as I said, it's a gold standard. Fortification, industrial fortification, supplementation, and so on. All these are complemented, they work together. And so biofortification is just simply complementing what is there. But we believe that if made more popular and it's rolled out more widely, it can contribute significantly because of affordability. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Because of time, we can take just one more question. And this person says, Abolanle Lori. She says that she is a food researcher, and she can say that there's a lot more lacuna between players in the food supply chain. Is there much connection between you and such research institutes? If no, as an employee of such institutes, how can we collaborate? I think this question is going to all the panelists, and who would like to take it now? The question can be answered by any of the panelists.
Do you mind, Olu, do you mind?
Insight.
Olu, you're breaking up a little bit. Do you mind just repeating your question again?
Okay, okay, absolutely. So the question, the person is a researcher basically, and she's trying to say that, is there any connection between you, like your organization, and such research institutes? More like there is no collaboration between research institutes and so much connection, and if there's also a way to collaborate between research institute and development players.
Okay, so I can just just respond to that question. So HarvestPlus is actually our work. The work that we do on biofortification is heavily steeped in research, and everything that we do is actually evidence-based. It started off as an idea, but that needed to be grounded in evidence, in scientific research and rigor. And so our founder, the person who came up with the idea, a gentleman called Howard Buis, who is a World Food Prize laureate, was a researcher himself, working within the centers of the International Agriculture Research Centers, known as the CGs. And so we continue to collaborate and work closely, not only with the CG centers, researching doing research on maize and cassava and different crops, but we also work with national agriculture research systems to make sure that we continue to develop these crops. But beyond just development of the products, the crops, the biofortified crops themselves, we also work with researchers, especially from universities and nutritionists. We've been working with them to build that evidence to show that when consumed regularly, these biofortified crops actually result in positive health outcomes, because we wanted to make sure that we are not just putting forward an interesting and sexy idea, but that it actually does have an impact on health outcomes. So we're constantly working to gather evidence, much evidence. We've got a host of peer-reviewed publications in scientific journals that we could share. And if you visit our website, you can find those articles that really indicate to the evidence base that we've built over the years, over the past 18 years. And we continue to work with other forms of research. For example, we work with the food industry to develop new products which incorporate these biofortified ingredients and make sure that the nutrients are still bioavailable even after the processing. And they actually also help to mitigate this problem. So in a nutshell, and to summarize, we do work at HarvestPlus, we do work with research organizations. We want to make sure that everything that we roll out is really evidence-based and not just something that is an idea that does not have an impact.
Thank you very much, sir. Because of time, we are unable to take any more questions, and I would like to hand over to Grace for the closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olutayo, and thank you to our panelists today for giving your insights and sharing your thoughts about today's topic on setting the scene. There has been much to learn and much to take forward from this conversation. Some of the questions in the chat box, we are not able to answer them at this particular time, but we can address them separately. Do send us an email. Please share the email addresses, Harold, that they can send these questions to, and we shall be able to get in touch with each one of you. So I really look forward to engaging with you at a later date, and we shall keep you informed about our the future webinars. And for this particular recording, we shall be sharing it as well through our social media channels, so that you can always come back to it and get that information. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and we appreciate your time, and we look forward to having you with us next time. Have a fantastic rest of the day wherever you are. Thank you. Thanks, and bye-bye.